On this episode of the Press Talk Sports Live, Freedom's girls volleyball team is entering uncharted waters, a co-league championship, and a home playoff game. We talked to senior captain Madison Perry about seeing the program reach new heights and the road getting there. I'm Jeff Weisinger, sports editor here at the Brentwood Press, and this is the Press Talk Sports Live, presented by the Brentwood Press. So, for starters, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
What has this weekend been like for you, kind of post-winning first co-championship, going back to the playoffs, getting ready to host a playoff game? What has this lead-in so far been like for you?
It's really been like a monumental moment for me, just as like a senior, and just being able to play really hard with like my teammates and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And just also being able to like host a playoff game. I think that's just really shown like who I am as a player. I like critique myself a lot, just because I want to be like the best player I can be for like not only like myself but teammates as well. And I think it just kind of like just reflects like my hard work and how I'm gonna continue to work hard like no matter what.
Have you thought about the fact that you and your team, or the team you lead, y'all are the first team to bring a home playoff game to Oakley? Like, that's because the 2015 team, the first one to make the playoffs, they didn't do that either.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, obviously, you guys were on the road. Has that kind of sunk in a little bit, like that sense of accomplishment?
Yeah, it has. Like, I talk about with like my teammates all the time. Like, even though like I am a captain, I'm supposed to lead. Like, it really is like a team effort, and like just the fact that we were able to like do that for the first time and be able to bring like a playoff game to Freedom. I think it's just gonna like really show like, and it's gonna be held as an example for like other people in the future to also want to do good.
Last year was your first time to the playoffs, the program's first time to the postseason in 8 years. What do you take from that experience kind of going in this time around?
Last year, I did notice like I started losing like the heart for the game last year. Not like as in like I didn't stop loving the game, just as if I was like kind of getting burnt out. And even though we played good that game and we lost in 3, like I still learned how to be like more of a better player and know how to kind of just really like give it my 100% each time. Cause like especially around this time of year when there's like a whole bunch of seniors on the team, like you really don't know like when it's going to be your last time you really ever play. And even though it is just like a high school sport, it really is important because that just kind of sets the tone of like how you want to pursue like volleyball in the future and everything. And what I took from like the first playoff game last year against Camp Lindo, you just see like all kinds of different talent too. And that's what's kind of like keeping me like prepared for this upcoming playoff game, because you really don't know what you're going to expect. You don't know how it's going to go. But like as long as like you and like yourself and like your teammates play to like their 100% each time, like you have anybody has like a good chance of like winning.
What was that like going? How do you use that experience as a positive, kind of going to this one because of the way that match went? I mean, it was such a one-sided match kind of going, and we kind of saw it played out. I mean, the third set you guys kind of fought back a little bit, but what's the positive you take from that going into Terra Linda on Wednesday?
The positive I take from that is some of the plays that we actually were able to like make during that game. Like even the first 2 sets were rough. I noticed that like even when we started fighting really hard, like throughout that third set, I think the third set was like 20-25. I just noticed like how like capable like a team is to be able just to push through that, especially since like it was a bit rocky at the end of the season, but like even then like we still had like fight to like have to like be able to play. And that's why I want to take into this first playoff game. I want us to like start off really strong. I want us to stay consistent the whole game. I know things happen to where it can kind of move like and shift like the game's energy, but as long as like we stay consistent and we stay playing up, then I think that's what like really matters. I take that as like a positive. Even when we're down and like we're losing and stuff, like we still have a chance to come back.
You mentioned the senior class. 10 seniors is 2/3 of the team pretty much. How crucial is this window for y'all to make some kind of run in this, especially with the way the NCS is now? It's not as one-sided, and if Heritage pulls some things Wednesday night, that could be a rematch in the quarterfinals.
Sure,
I mean, talk about this window for y'all.
It's really, I take it as like I'm actually like quite like nervous. Like I try not to like express that a lot, just because like I feel like I have to like keep like staying strong like the whole entire time through everything. But no, I am nervous. Like I'm nervous for any game that we have, and I know for sure that Heritage, they're gonna play a really strong game against their opponents in SF. But I think that we also have a chance and everything, and it's just something that I think about often. But these next two practices, we're just gonna work really, really hard to try to achieve that.
How excited are you for Wednesday?
I am actually really excited.
And also what's the mood been like around campus so far? Because I mean, this is a big
Yeah.
deal for in school, let alone the program.
Yeah, no, like I've gone, like a lot of my teachers have like talked to me and like some of my other teammates about how they heard it on the announcements and stuff, and a lot of my teachers are excited to come see us play. It's nerve-wracking. Definitely feel like there's pressure, but you know, like in games like this in the playoffs, there's gonna be pressure. That's what I've learned the past couple of games, and I'm really excited, also very nervous, just because like, you know, you have to take every team like they're just as good as you, if not better. So you really have to like really prepare yourself like mentally, and just be prepared to like, you know, keep fighting on and kind of just keep playing.
What's the biggest difference with the team this year? And I asked that because this team, when I covered it last year, you could tell the team was a lot better. Obviously, Kyla coming in kind of added that sense of that next level, I think, that everyone needed to push. But what's been the biggest differences this year without having the AKA mercenary on the team?
So I like, first off, I do want to say like I learned a lot from KP as a player. Like she's aggressive on the court, and like everybody needs that on a team. But I also learned that like team chemistry will like prevail most of the time. Like the team chemistry last year, it was good, but like this year it's just like the girls, they're just so connected, and we just mesh so much better that even when we're not playing to our fullest potential, it's because of that chemistry that keeps us wanting to like play and actually like want to win.
What was it like last year having that one person kind of, and you being behind her, so to say, having that one person really, that one star player, so to say? What was it like kind of being behind that? And then now, fast forward, what's it like for you kind of taking that mantle?
Yeah, like I think for KP, like she was like one of our best players, and she showed me a side of like the kind of player that I need to be, and also the kind of team player that I should be as well. Like I think I learned a lot from her. Like I took mental notes of how to play smarter and how to play more aggressive, but I also took like other mental notes of about how to like, you know, encourage my teammates and kind of like uplift them in a way. So it's just like little things like that. And like I've always looked up to her like as a player. I think when she did come to our team last year, she did give our team a new sense of like feeling of like we want to win, like we are capable of winning. And then I think that's also what like kind of led into this year's team, because people like saw her as an example, learned a lot from her, and then kind of just like we were like, okay, like this is the team that we should be, you know.
Talk about that a little bit, because you mentioned a team wanting to win. Before last season, it was single-digit wins throughout, obviously struggling in league. Talk about that in ways, flipping that switch, right? Of, okay, here's, not just we want to win, but here's, it almost seems like here's how we do it. Is that safe to say?
Yeah. No, like, especially last year. Last year was like a good season. Like I thought it went okay, but obviously like this year, it's like, clearly it's like something different. Like we've progressed like a lot better, and I think that it's not about like this is how we do it. It's like it's more of like we have to also like work together with ourselves, and also like talk to each other about like this is how like a game should go, and even like no matter what, this is how we can adjust, or this is how like we can just kind of just keep pushing throughout the season. So like no matter what, even if we did lose to Heritage that day, I think either way, like we still would have kept like pushing throughout the season and like still worked our hardest and like play to like our potential. So
does it mean more? This year was very interesting for y'all because of not just the record, granted like breaking the wins record for the program, but also like who y'all beat, right? Beating Liberty, splitting against Heritage. I want to ask about that because these are wins that have not happened in a very long time. What's it like kind of having that one up, so to say? It was like, okay, this is the year we were able to beat Liberty, and kind of this was like a down year for Liberty, for what it's worth. And then Heritage, I don't want to call it down year for them, but like I think they may tell you it was these are programs that like owned the rest of the league
Yeah.
for years, right? What's it like being the ones to be able to beat them? Because almost like nobody saw y'all coming like that.
Yeah. No, it's because, like, a lot of the teams in our league happen to, like, kind of just think, like, oh, it's just freedom. And that, like, to try to, like, kind of assume that we're not that very good. And I think just to take out, like, big rivals like Heritage and Liberty, it just really shows that, like, you can't really underestimate, like, the underdog or, like, teams that haven't really done that well in the past. And, like, that's why I try to look at every team as just as a good team. Is just because, like, I don't want me or, like, my other teammates to get into the habit of kind of, like, being, like, too, like, overly confident and thinking that a team is worse than us. When, like, any team we versus, like, they have a chance just like we did. I think beating Heritage, that was, like, one of, like, our biggest moments because not only are we splitting a B-Val champs, like, banner with them, it's also, like, telling ourselves that, like, yeah, like, we're a pretty good team and we're capable of beating anybody. And yeah.
Talk about splitting the throne with Heritage. What that like?
Yeah.
Especially in your senior season, it's almost like such a way to go out of your high school career. Like, okay, well, brought the playoffs home at least for the first 2 rounds, considering how things go, right? Splitting the league championship with Heritage, who won 5 straight. And granted, like it still counts for them as 5 straight, but a team that's been winning year in and year out like that, that's been putting out players. What's it like, kind of forcing them to split the throne like that?
It feels really good, actually. It's just because I also have teammates on that team and everything, so it was like, it was a good game and stuff.
Club teammates, right?
Yeah, club teammates, yeah. And so it just felt really good because, Heritage is known for having, like, back-to-back wins and, like, always going to NCS for, like, almost everything. And I think just being able to split that championship with them, it's definitely, like, fulfilling. Like, it's a very exciting time, and especially after that win, like, we were all just, like, really, like, excited and rejuvenated and kind of just, like, yeah, it was an eye-opener for us, like, saying, like, this is, like, our potential. Like, we can play as well as we did against them.
I feel like in ways, athletics around Freedom is starting to change, and I feel like y'all could be leading it, especially being the earliest sport to kind of go through playoffs and go through the season.
Yeah.
Talk about the culture here, because I think the one thing that people are seeing, people out here will see as football is struggling right now and stuff like that. Baseball obviously kind of did their thing last year a bit. Basketball, the girls did okay. Yeah. The boys team was very different. Y'all reached the playoffs. That was kind of a big thing. Yeah. I don't want to call Freedom a volleyball school, but in ways, y'all are kind of leading that culture shift back towards athletics, especially with the success, right? Yeah. What's that been like for y'all?
It's been, like, to me, like, inspiring, especially because, like, I've had, I was at one of the football games the other night, actually, and, like, a little girl that saw me play, like, she actually, like, she said that I did really good, and, like, she was, like, really inspired by the way I played, and I think that was just really heartwarming to me, especially because, like, high school, like, is mainly known for football and stuff, and, like, there's also a stigma around volleyball to where, like, oh, yeah, it's just the volleyball team, no one really wants to go see, like, a girls' volleyball game, but I think us being, like, announced and, like, about, like, how we finally made it to the playoffs and stuff like that and being able to host a playoff game, I think that's really starting to change around school, and people are actually starting to, like, not only just look at football or basketball, but also, like, volleyball too, and, like, how much it's also, like, an important sport and how it is, like, a very competitive and, like, aggressive sport as well, even though it's no contact, but it's still, like, just as, like, aggressive, I would say, like, for basketball,
What's it like having bigger crowds in football right now?
I have a lot to say about that. But it's, it's different.
Well, let me ask you this: for senior night last Thursday, seeing the crowd, seeing the stands packed like that. I don't know, there's a lot of it's family and for senior night, but seeing both sides open, both sides packed, it was loud in here. Everyone was excited.
Yes, yeah, it was.
It's a different energy. I mean, especially towards the end of the year, considering all the success compared to the beginning. But talk about what it's like. What that was like, having the atmosphere, and then, like, kind of hoping that's going to be similar come Wednesday.
It really, like, I feel like not only for me, but, like, for the rest of my teammates, we felt very seen. I feel like, but it was just because no one usually comes to support volleyball like that, and even though it, like you said, like, it was a lot of family in the stands. Like, I feel like just, like, the fact that people showed up and they've been hearing about, like, how we've been winning a lot, and then they actually got to see it. It's just, like, it just felt like we were, like, seen, and that we're finally being recognized for, like, our talent and, like, how hard we've been playing and, like, how competitive and, like, aggressive we can be on the court and stuff, so.
The one thing I've noticed with y'all this year, I think I told you this last year. A lot of the celebration shots I got with you, you were just like beyond yourself for almost every point, right? Always
Yeah.
smiling, always this and that. The one thing I've noticed with y'all, there's a lot more smiles with y'all this year. It seems like the team, and I guess this goes into team chemistry, but y'all are smiling a lot more this
Yeah.
year. What has this chemistry been like, and what was the trip to In-N-Out like? What
Oh,
was the annual
right.
In-N-Out trip this year for y'all?
So the annual In-N-Out trip was, we didn't just eat, we got In-N-Out and then we went to the park and then we kind of all just like hung out there, you know. But I think the reason why we have like more smiles this season is just like we've kind of like just learned how to like let things go, like kind of just live in the moment, like on the court, like, you know, find the next point, because it is like at the end of the day it's like a mental game.
Right.
So it's just like you really have to, you know, get your head out of these spaces where like you feel like you're not playing as good, because if not, like the rest of your teammate has your back. Like we can overcompensate for one of our teammates in order to get to that next point, you know.
Right.
And I think that's something that we've learned together, like as a team, to, you know, figure out. And also, like, we want to be more in tune with like our goals for each game. Like we want, like, every time before a game, we would all sit down like after we warm up and we kind of just talk about our goals and like our worries for that game, so that we can not only just be aware of ourselves but also be aware of each other too, so that way we know like how to uplift each other and how to like communicate to each other. I think that's why we have more smiles. It's just because like we actually like talk, like we communicate. It's not just kind of like getting mad at each other and,
Right.
and not saying anything.
And I asked that because I think whether it's 1-0 after the opening, at the opening point, or like 20 or the 25th point in set 3 or whatever, like all the celebrations feel very all the same, right? It is like, yeah, we scored. I'm sitting there like just when I go through my photos, I'm like, which celebration shot am I using? Because I'm like,
Yeah.
it could be at 2-0, it could be at 24-10, like
Yeah.
whatever. I think it's a very interesting dynamic because when I watch y'all, especially when you concede or like when you kind of go into a small cold streak during a set, during a match, there is a stronger sense of confidence with y'all as far as like bounce back, don't worry, we got this, compared to last year where there were, you know, when you go down, when you allow a 3, 4, 5 point run, there was that sense of frustration. And I mean,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong on that. And I watch other teams, Heritage, DV, Liberty, when things kind of go south, you can kind of feel the tension or the stress, right?
Yeah.
How do y'all how do you guys balance that, and how do you guys kind of not fall into? How do you guys manage not to fall into that?
Yeah, it's really hard not to, especially after, like, you know, when a team gets like a 6 point lead run on you. It's really hard to like think, okay, like we can bounce back from that. But I think just like our communication, I think that's what's really important. And I know like a lot of people say that it really is about the communication, but it is like it's really important to like talk to your teammates, and we kind of learn how to keep this mindset that we can come back from this, like we can push, like no matter how the outcome is, like there's a way for us to keep pushing throughout the set or throughout the game, even if we like do lose this one set. And like for the Deer Valley game, for example, like even though that third set was very, very close, I wasn't worried. Like
Right.
I was confident that we were going to win that set, and I was confident that we were going to pull together as a team. Like we weren't going to let them like one up us, you know?
Right.
And that's just something I feel like we all felt collectively as a team. Even though they were getting close, I
Right.
still felt like very confident in like myself and like the rest of my team and stuff like that.
How do you carry that going to the playoffs? Because you can play against a team that's not DV, right?
Yeah.
That's not that kind of level. No, probably maybe a little better than what you've seen so far. How do you carry that confidence to not stress? Because there'll be a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, all the fun stuff's happening. There's a lot of stuff against you. You're at home. You have the crowd. The season that y'all had. There is a lot of stuff that's piled up on top of everything. How do you kind of keep that sense of that even keel confidence, so to say, throughout?
Yeah. It's hard to explain it, but it's not, because honestly, like, I wouldn't be able to do it, like, on my own.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I know I talk about, like, myself, like, and the team, but I think it's just the fact that, like, because there's times where, like, I also kind of get down. I also kind of get lost in, like, that losing, like, kind of streak a little bit. And, like, it's really, like, my teammates who kind of remind me, like, that, like, I'm also, like, a really good player. And I think it's also about, like, knowing who your opponent is. Like you always have to assume like your opponent is going to be if not like better than you, and so that way you can actually prepare and like be ready for like anything that kind of comes that way. And I think with like Deer Valley was like a very good game to like learn from, because not only was it like our senior night, but it was also our last game of like league, you know, before we went into the playoffs. And I think that game kind of just really showed like how we need to just learn how to stay consistent no matter like who the big competitor is on like the other team. And kind of just like know that we can like pull ourselves out of it. And I think that's what's like probably leading us into this like next playoff game, because I am nervous for it, but like I'm confident like no matter the outcome of the game, like we're gonna play to our fullest. I think that's what like actually really matters.
I never got a chance to ask you this, but when you were named captain this season, what did that mean to you, especially with how everything last year went?
Yeah.
Did last year was your first year in varsity? You're a second year varsity player, right?
Yeah.
Being named captain, what was that like? Take me through that when you were named and your
Yeah.
reaction.
No, yeah. So when I was first named captain, my coach was talking to me. I can't remember if it was before our first tournament, but it was like over the summer camps, and we were kind of just talking, and she noticed like how hard that I worked throughout like the summer camps and leading up to, you know, trouts and everything. And also it's also because like I wanted to be captain very, very bad. So I also know that there's a lot of work that has to be put into being a captain. Like you have to learn how to keep that energy up even when all your teammates feel like it's down. And you have to really learn how to like brush off little things. Like if I get like blocked or like stuffed by another player, I can't really let that get to me, you know? Like
Right.
it's going to happen eventually. Like I'm not always going to make the smartest plays or like the smartest decisions on the court, but that's everybody. I kind of have to like learn how to give myself some grace, but also like be a team player to where like I am also able to like uplift like my other teammates as well, to where they feel like they can trust me like as a captain, you know. And when she finally like named me captain, I was really proud of like myself as a player, but like obviously on my biggest critique. So like even though I did have the label as captain, I still wanted to be like the best player and captain that I know I can be, you know.
Was it kind of that sense of just like, really?
Yeah, it was a little bit, but like I was also like, you know, I was confident. I was like, yeah, like I think I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna be a captain. Like I hope I am, but I'm gonna work hard to see if I can be capable of being one, you know.
As often as I talked to Coach Rivas, she keeps mentioning your sense of calm and the way you're able to kind of lift people up, especially when things get kind of difficult. How much has being captain and having all that, how much of that has that helped you grow personally, like throughout the season, going up to this point?
Yeah, like it's really done a lot for like my leadership skills, because last year when I was like more of like under like KP's like wing, I didn't really have the same like energy or leadership skills that I know I could have. But I think me being a captain, it's really just kind of like pushed me to be more like outgoing and kind of like step out of like my comfort zone a little bit, like learn how to just, you know, let things go and not let things like, you know, like get in my head, especially because volleyball is such like a mental game. So like if you're in your head all the time as a captain, then you reflect that as a team. Like I have to stay composed and stay calm and keep my energy up, because then my teammates see that, and then they're going to reflect that same kind of energy, and that's what kind of keeps like pushing us throughout a set. And so I think me being captain was a very great decision on my coach's part, but also like it's really like helped me just kind of like become like a better player. And I no matter what, like if I'm not a captain, like in the future, if I do decide to play in college, I think it'll just like show like that I can be that person or like that player that like my teammates can rely on. I hope. I don't know what they think, but I hope they're able to rely on
Well,
me.
that's what I want to ask next, because you mentioned how much you looked up to KP when you were a junior. You have a couple of juniors looking up to you now.
Yeah.
What would you want them? What would you want them to say about them kind of following under your wing when they're seniors?
I kind of want them to keep in mind, like Jalea, for instance, like she's a junior, she's going to be a senior next year, and then Sammy, she's going to be a junior next year. Like I kind of want them, I hope what they can learn from me is not to always listen to like outside voices about how the way they play. Like I think it's good to take in like advice, but to also not always try to mimic or copy like another player. Like it's good to find your own kind of way and kind of like kind of like your own sense of identity in volleyball. And like that's what I've learned from KP. Like as a junior, I didn't want to be just like her, because there were some things like I could take in, some things that like I shouldn't, you know, form as a habit. And it was just important for me to like learn how to play like my own game and kind of like form like my own, like I said, like identity in volleyball, because everyone has a different playing style. Everyone plays differently and makes different decisions on the court. But I want like people like Jalea, who has so much potential, to like also learn how to find herself like throughout volleyball, and hopefully also like find those same leadership skills, and know how to like, you know, take control of the court, but in a positive way, not in like a way to where it's like kind of putting your teammates down, but a way like to where you guys are all playing at like this highest point, you know?
You mentioned Jalea and Sammy. Can we talk about this become like an outside hitters you? Like KP, you, Jalea, Sammy. I mean, you kind of, and I'm going to ask Coach about this, but you're really kind of building this sense of great outside hitters really coming here. I mean, what's it like being KP might have started it, but what's it like kind of really being a part of that?
It's very inspiring to me, just because like 3 years ago when I started here like as a freshman, like I was not expecting to, you know, be like this great player that I can be. Obviously, like I was gonna work hard on it, but just to be able to be a part of that, it's like almost like telling like my younger self that, like, you know, that I worked really hard to be here, and that like even then when I didn't think I was gonna be that good of a player, and everybody started club before me, and I was kind of falling behind and like learning skills, it just really shows that like as long as like you really stay consistent with yourself and just stay true to yourself, but also like be really not super hard on yourself, but also like just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Like it really just shows like your hard work will pay off, and like that's something I want Jalea to understand too, because there's times where she plays very smart and aggressive, but she has all this potential that I know that can just keep pushing her just to be like the greatest player she can be. Like I see some things in her that like she knows how to control better than I can on the court, and I just see that a lot. I see that in like everybody and all my teammates, and even like on JV, like I just see so much potential within everybody, just because I was there at some point, you know.
What was the moment you mentioned how like everyone in club before you were kind of falling behind? What was the one moment, I guess, or what was that the moment where everything just kind of clicked for you? Was there like just one specific moment, or?
It was probably during my JV year, when
As a freshman or sophomore?
Oh, sophomore.
Okay.
Sophomore, and where I ended up being promoted as a captain on my JV year, and I had to step into a position that I wasn't really like familiar with, like a leadership role that I wasn't really like familiar with as a person, especially when I first came back. Everybody had already previously did club like their first year and a half, and I felt like I wasn't really made for that position. But my coach at the time, like he saw that potential in me, and that's when everything kind of like started clicking and saying like, I can keep moving forward. Like I can build myself up even when there's people that are like ahead of me, and that's something that I've always like tried to keep in mind. And stuff like as I'm telling myself, and as like I go to like workouts and stuff like that, that's just something that I always try to like keep as like a reminder, you know.
Being captain in JV, was that sense of responsibility kind of what allowed you to kind of stop? Because a lot of high school athletes, especially nowadays, they see everyone, especially with how social media is, they see how everyone's kind of better than them. Oh, this person's getting this scholarship, this person's so good, this person, this, that, and the other. Was that sense of being captain, having that sense of responsibility, was that something that really kind of helped push you, in a sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely did, especially because like even though like when people talk to me, I seem like very outgoing and like and easy to talk to, like being a leader is something different. Like sometimes being a leader is like having to tell like your teammate like, hey, that wasn't like the smartest play, but there's something that you can do differently, you know, the next play. And that's something I wasn't used to, you know. I was used to just being like very like interactive and like talkative with people, but not having to take that leadership role and like have to take control of the court when things started, you know, kind of like falling apart in a way. I think that's what's really helped me, especially since I wasn't a captain last year, but this year I am. It's like the same thing. Like it's really shown me that there's times where like I know when to be a leader, and times where I know where to be like a team player, you know.
So pretty much we blame the one coming from Vegas as far as you not being not being a captain, right?
Yeah, but no, not really. But like, because honestly, like I wasn't really ready to be a captain last year anyway.
Okay.
I think KP, she really showed like immense like leadership skills like at times, and there's things I can take away from that, and also like things that like I can also learn and kind of like better.
Right.
But I don't think, because last year I did play scared. Like I played timid. Like I'm gonna be honest. Like I was very. It was my first year on varsity, so I felt like I wasn't allowed to make any mistakes.
Okay.
And so, but obviously I did. Like everybody does,
Right.
But I didn't really know that. I felt like it's my first year on varsity. I have to be perfect.
Right.
And KPX kind of really shown me that, like, not all the time do I have to be perfect, as long as I'm playing, like, aggressive and playing to my fullest. And I think KP was meant to be captain last year, and she showed me a lot of things that, like, I didn't really know that I was capable of.
You mentioned last year not making mistakes. Talk about comparing the end of last year to this year. This year, riding an 11-game win streak. You've allowed just 2 sets throughout the whole streak, which is wild if you think about especially how far apart they came, right? And then last year, you guys, in ways, kind of crawled into the playoffs, and then kind of everything happened the way it did. What would you say is is it really chemistry that's the biggest difference with how you guys are going into the postseason this year compared to last? Is that really, is it really the big key?
Yeah, it really is. Like, I know it's like kind of like cringe to say, but like it really is like a big difference, because like chemistry, like it was all right last year, but not everybody was like connected. Like there was a sense of like division or like a divide between us especially towards the end of the season. But I feel like this year, like we're like probably the strongest like we've ever been. And I think that's what's also going to lead into the playoffs. Our first match on Wednesday, I think that's just like one of like the most important things. It really is team chemistry. Like team chemistry like will prevail, I feel like, because even when there's times when we're not playing to our fullest potential, it's just the fact that like we're aware of each other. I think that's what's like really, really important.
What does this playoff run mean to you personally?
Yeah, honestly, like it really means everything for me, because I want to play in college, and it's like my senior year. Never in a million years did I think I'd be right
Really?
where I am. Yeah, like I knew that Freedom was very capable of going to the playoffs, but just the fact that like I can be a part of that, I think that's a privilege to me. And I think it really just shows like just the immense amount of like dedication and everything. And it really is important to me, like as a senior, especially since like I do plan on playing in college. Don't know where yet, but I do plan on it. And just the fact that I can like have like one last memory with people I've played with like since like my freshman year, it's something that's really important to me, and that I'll always like hold it over like a trophy.
Right.
Yeah.
How much would it mean to you to bring Freedom's first playoff win?
It would mean,
I know we're kind of escalating,
yeah,
but you can see, right?
But it would mean like I don't even know what to say. It'd mean like a lot. Like it not only would like change like the dynamics like at school, like you mentioned before, about how like how Freedom could be, a primarily like volleyball like school, but it also like would show like like the younger groups like freshmen and JV, like we all wrote them letters about how like kind of like passing down like the torch. And I think just to like be able to bring our first playoff win, it would be like, yeah, like our team's pretty good, and like they'll have something to look up to like the next years, after like most of us have graduated and stuff.
How much better did it be doing it at home?
Well,
let me ask that. To not have to travel in general, right? You look at both Heritage and Liberty; they have to go to Santa Rosa, which I made sure I was avoiding that drive, right? But to be able to not have to travel in general, I mean, not that Morocco was far last year, but to not have to travel, another team's gym, different sight lines, all that kind of stuff. How much of an advantage is that for you guys compared to like having to go on road like y'all did last year?
I think it's actually a pretty like good advantage, just because like when we versus Campo, we did have to make a commute to that high school, and then obviously unfortunately like we ended up losing in 3, and that was kind of like it kind of hurt our prides a little bit, just making that huge commute and then having to unfortunately like lose to Campo Lindo. But to have like that relief that we're hosting a playoff game here, I think it's gonna like kind of just set the tone for when like our opponents like come in and everything, especially since I know our energy will be high, and we will be staying consistent throughout the whole game, I hope. And having like a playoff game, it's fun because now we actually get to have a crowd there, kind of there for us and there to like cheer us on, just to see what we can do.
Is the whole family showing up for the playoffs?
I'm trying to get them to come, yeah, but most of my family is. I'm trying to get relatives
The
and
bigger
stuff.
question is Kennedy's mom singing the national anthem again? Because we need,
Oh,
we
yeah,
need the
we do
encore.
need yeah,
we need
she
the
was.
encore of that because she absolutely killed it Thursday
She
night.
did. She did really good. She actually used to be a singer, actually.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, like, I really hope, like, the parents, like, yeah, the parents really, like, helped out with that senior night game. They've helped out throughout, like, the whole season, actually, and they've done a lot. Like, and it's also, like, just that support. Like, even though it is the team chemistry, you know, our amazing skills, you know, playing throughout volleyball, but it is really, like, just the support that we've also had. You know, I think, hopefully, if the school wants to come support us on our first playoff game, then, yeah, like, it'll get us a long way, I feel like.
I'll end with this. Seeing the crowd packed, the stands packed, both sides. Hopefully Kennedy's mom singing the national anthem and setting us up like Whitney Houston all over again.
Yeah.
Talk about just like kind of what would the nerves be like stepping onto the court for the first time like that, and just with everything, you know, I don't call it pageantry, but all that stuff. What are the nerves like stepping onto that? Compared to a regular season match.
Yes, for sure. It's almost as similar as like when we versed Heritage for the second time.
Okay.
It was, I think, just the first playoff game and having the privilege to have it be home. I think it makes me very nervous, but like more of like there's so much that can happen, like just the players you're gonna meet during this game. It's more of like exciting nerves. Like I'm nervous for any game that we usually play just because like I said, like anything can happen.
Right.
But the nerves are just kind of like, it's more of like really like real excitement. Like this is a playoff game that like you can learn from these players. Like yeah, it's very important to beat them, but it's also important to like, you know, like take in what you're like seeing from other players. And this team that we're gonna verse, they've worked just as hard as us to get here. So they're gonna bring everything, but so are we. So that's awesome. What I'm excited about.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. This is like really scary, actually.
So, okay. What's worse, this interview or like a playoff game at home on Wednesday?
No, it's definitely a playoff game. So
okay,
that's
thank goodness.
Yeah, that's why. But yeah, it's just because I've never really done anything like this before, so it's very nerve-wracking, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah.
All right.